Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's pre-decision meeting. A bit of housekeeping. If the fire alarm does sound, we need to evacuate out into the square where Queen Victoria's statue is. The meeting is being live streamed from a camera in the corner. If anyone has any objection to that, tough because everyone here is either a councillor or a council officer, so you don't get a choice. But if there were any members of the public here, then they would have a right to say they do not wish to be live streamed. We've had apologies from absence from Councillor Donna Jones. She's had to go and pick her son up from school due to a painful injury in relation to his broken finger. So that's completely understandable, and we have no deputations coming forward. So should we quickly just say who we are for the record, and then we'll get on with the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Judith Smythe, Councillor for St Jude Ward.
I'm Toby Ailing, Planning Policy Manager.
Rachel Cutler, Planning Policy.
Peter Wolf, Deputy City Solicitor.
David Penrose, Democratic Services.
Thank you, everyone. So we've done apologies for absence. Declaration of interest, I have none, no, wonderful. Item 3, Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan. Toby.
So I was just going to very briefly introduce this and ask Rachel to take you through the paper as she wrote it. So this is in regards to our function as a Minerals and Waste Planning Authority. I'm just going to ask Rachel to go through it now.
Thank you. The report presented to PRED asks that you consider the report on the existing Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan and endorse the decision not to review the plan at this time. Portsmouth City Council has a duty to prepare the plan to ensure there's enough mineral supply and waste management capacity. The focus of this is on planning for the wider infrastructure, which is separate to the Council's responsibilities for waste collection. To do this, Portsmouth relies on the wider provision in the county. The Council has worked on minerals and waste matters in partnership with Hampshire County Council, Southampton City Council and New Forest and South Downs National Park authorities over many years. This has resulted in the adoption of the Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan in October 2013. As national planning policy requires that plans are reviewed after 5 years, Hampshire County Council undertook an audit of the plan last year on behalf of the partnership. This was in order to consider whether it still conforms with national planning policy and whether it's still being effective. The report concluded that the policies are still working effectively to achieve the plan's vision and that there is therefore no requirement to update the plan at this time. Although there is an identified shortage of some mineral reserves in the county, there are a number of planning applications for mineral extraction that are expected to come forward, and discussions are taking place on opportunities for prime mineral extraction at some housing allocation sites. It was also emphasised that current delays to planning applications aren't due to the plan's policies. While new waste management capacity has been more focused on waste recovery than recycling, sufficient waste management capacity has been delivered within the plan period to date, and the forecast amount of waste to be managed has been reasonably accurate. Although there is remaining landfill capacity in the county, the landfill capacity in the county has fallen below the target threshold. This is recognised as a regional issue and is being addressed through position statements with other waste planning authorities. There are some current issues that are causing uncertainty in the industry, and this includes China's recent ban on imported plastics and the impacts of Brexit on local supply. Overall, the review found that the plan's policies do not preclude new minerals and waste action coming forward. It's therefore proposed to review the plan again in 2020. During this time, a clearer understanding may emerge around some of the current issues. Discussion on the plan will continue in the meantime, including a proposed workshop with stakeholders in September this year. We therefore ask that you agree a review of the plan, the Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan, is not necessary at this time, and recommend that the decision is reported for consideration by full council. This needs to be a full council matter, as it's a decision on whether to continue to use an adopted plan, which forms part of the development plan for Portsmouth. All of our fellow partnership authorities have also progressed this issue in the same way through full council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And is this your first report to an open meeting? You're doing a good job. Well done. I had a couple of quick questions, and then I'm sure, Judith, you can come in whenever. So am I right in thinking this is we're the last authority to sign this off, and it's already been through the equivalent processes elsewhere?
I believe so. I think there was one more to do it in March in parallel with us, but everyone else has agreed to this so far.
Okay. And will this go to March full council, or will this go to May?
March full council.
Okay. I think this is fine. Judith?
At the risk of extending a short meeting to a longer meeting, I'd be really interested to know how we could, at what point does this whole matter of particularly minerals extraction become one where we could be seen to be holding up the growth of the economy or house building or road building or whatever? What are the kind of whole risks for us in participating in this process? I think that's what I would like to know. And I'm rather ashamed I don't know it already.
Well, there needs to be a sort of 7-year rolling land bank of construction aggregates for sand and gravel. We've fallen a bit below that on the soft sand side, but they do believe there are sites that will come forward, so it's more sort of delays in the system as opposed to a sort of actual shortage of potential extraction sites.
And how does the Minerals Authority, we're in a consortium with Hampshire here, aren't we? And is it other authorities, Southampton, I
Southampton
presume?
City Council and the 2 National Park authorities.
Yes. So the main person who will go out and try and encourage people to apply for permission to extract sand from other parts of the county, is that a process run from here or run from Hampshire still?
We're in a sort of partnership, but Hampshire do the work on behalf of Portsmouth City Council, although we're still the Minerals and Waste Planning Authority.
Yes.
So Hampshire sort of in effect do that for us.
I'm more familiar with the waste situation, having taken a detailed briefing about that. What happens in the situation that we can't find any more minerals to help the building process here? What do authorities in that position have to do? For example, there must be London boroughs that are unitary authorities that can't find their own aggregates or sand or whatever's necessary. What do they do?
There tends to be usually agreements with other authorities or areas they know there are minerals, and that's involves a lot of engagement to ensure there'll be a sufficient supply for everybody involved. Or you could perhaps get alternative evidence that you can provide what you need through imported sources or recycled sources, but you have to prove you're going to not drain somebody else's supply too much, or that you can agree that with other authorities to sort of have an agreement going forward.
So does that have to be signed off by central government then? And would we be would it cost us more than the actual supply from the landowner costs if we had to buy it from elsewhere?
Well, yeah, each local plan will go to examination, so that's when it's sort of agreed by the government. They think your approach is sound, no matter what approach you've taken, if you can't have the land bank requirements that they've set out. I don't know about costs. I guess that is a factor in how sound the plan is, if that's a viable way to secure the mineral supply.
Just to add very briefly on that point, I mean, this is a commercial market for these construction materials, and the purpose of the system is to ensure there's sufficient supply across the country in a regional basis. I mean, in effect, we rely on aggregates brought in from outside the city anyway. So we're in a partnership with Hampshire. If Hampshire couldn't achieve that, then Hampshire looks to its neighbours and so on and so forth. Like you said, London obviously is a huge draw inwards, but the purpose of the system is to do the best we can in our local areas to stop us carting around huge amounts, huge volumes of this stuff around the country.
Just my last question then is, a couple of these minerals are sort of a bit shorter than recommended, so we haven't a 10-year supply identified. Is there any serious worry that we could run out of time and that delaying this another period is risky at all or not?
They didn't seem to think so at this time. They are going to review it again in 2020 and have also ongoing discussion with the minerals industry and waste industry over the next 2 years. So that they didn't think it was a risk in the sort of interim period because they've got these sites they know might come forward, prior extraction opportunities. And the plans, it's also about the plan policy itself, so they don't stop, planning applications coming in. So it's thought the plan in its current form is suitable, and they also think there's no high risk in the next 2 years at least.
Thank you very much. I feel greatly reassured. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much both, much appreciated. I'm happy with the recommendation. Can we consider that approved? We will now move on to item 4, which is the note of exercise of Standing Order 58. Peter, this is not your first meeting. Could you just talk us through the background and the understanding of this? Because I think this is the first time Judith had to deal with this.
I'm slightly familiar with the case. So.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially this is a settlement on the back of a contested building dispute involving Portsmouth City Council as primary contractor and a third-party company for the provision of building services in Portsmouth. We built various units. Our quantity surveyor valued the contract at X. They valued the contract at Y, and there was a threat of arbitration and or adjudication proceedings. I spent a day in London on the 10th of December relevant to a mediation with their company directors and the QC instructed. That was a hard day's work, if ever there was one. Ultimately, a settlement was brokered, but the part of it, in part of the confidentiality, which is why I don't mention any of the figures, was that the payment should be made expeditiously. In order to do that, it was necessary to exercise Standing Order 58 for two reasons. One, the expedition, and secondly, my level of authority at the time to deal with paying off the differential in terms of what we settled on and what we had in the pot to pay for it, was essentially additional 75,000, of which I have 50,000 authority. Therefore, I needed 25 from David via yourselves. So we exercised Standing Order 58 to give me an extra 25, making 75, and I signed on the agreement there and then, having spoken to the relevant cabinet members and senior members of the administration as per Standing Order 58. The good news was that the settlement was made and brokered then. The trick is to do it at that stage, because what tends to happen is you don't do it at that stage. People get on the train and crystallise their views about how badly they've done or well they've done, and you end up litigating for another 3 or 4 months, thereby raising additional costs, aggravation and difficulty. Suffice it to say, we had an extremely good result on the basis that we were able to shave a not inconsiderable amount of money off what they were allegedly owed on the contract. Our QS was extremely good, albeit probably too robust, hence why we ended up paying them some more, but it was only essentially 25,000 over my best guess, which I was quite pleased about for obvious reasons. There you go.
Thank you. Judith, any questions?
No.
No.
I think sometimes these things happen. It's always bad. But
We don't do it very often. This is probably the second one I've done in 7 years.
that's good.
And it's usually on the back of, what I tend to do is tell the members I'm going up to do a mediation or a settlement, so you know it's coming. I get a budget from you, my client. I know what my level of authority is. I'll tell you how much between X and Y it might be. And if I'm adrift, I'll come back and ask you for some more. But it's 2 in 7 years. It's quite rare. We're pretty good at knocking them out before we get up to this sort of stage.
Yeah.
But this is quite
absolutely.
big.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks very much.
It is noted. Thank you very much. That is the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone.